You're the committee chair for our topic and follow-up. I put this together. I don't know if it gives us any direction. You can just look at it if you want. Because we're kind of coming in here open-ended with where we are.
We'll pass that around. We have notes of who was all here. We'll call the meeting to order at 3:04.
Are you taking notes?
I'm
It's
gonna take
an open forum. We don't have to.
Okay.
It's, I can. Well,
committee meetings, we'll just have a record. We'll have the notes of who's all here. So since our Monday meeting, I've been on the phone. I see ATS&R's represented here. We could have introductions. His first name is
Blaine.
Blaine.
Last name Parkos.
Bartos. Okay, I'm Neil Lerke. I'm a school board member. We have
Sandra Smith, school board member.
Local newspaper reporter Angie. Sean. Dell's other half. Ruben Larson, I'll get it. Does a lot of our videoing. Wes is our maintenance guy here. You met Scott Black. Have you met this man?
No.
I'm Drew. I'm the business manager.
Okay.
Okay. And did you have something to present?
Well, actually, I noticed that ATS&R had previously done some facilities analysis work for you guys.
Okay.
And that was relatively recently. I think they sent you the final reports, I believe it was about last May, thereabouts.
Yep, around that time frame is when we received it. And then since then, the board's been reviewing it. We completed a community outreach group, and then they gave us their information back, and that final report was January-ish, I think, when that was presented to the board. Now our board's been processing what they received since then.
Yeah, and so I brought some of that information with me, which kind of details more. I dug out some of the pieces that detail more into the mechanical system, which I think is what you're interested in right now, right? So I brought those pieces with me, and we can review them as we're going along here, as we delve into what it is that's important to you guys. What things do you want to accomplish? As we figure those things out, we can review them here, because we have cost impacts for those things laid out in here. Things like that. So we've got a good sense of what you have and what you need to do. Now it's a matter, I think, of working with you guys and prioritizing and figuring out what it is that's important going forward and how you can approach that from a financial sense and to what's important and highest priority to the district. Whether it's issues that have been large maintenance items for you that really need to be taken care of, systems that are failing, things like that. It's good to get those things prioritized and then figure out, how to step forward with them.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm here to help you with and discuss and figure out, help you guys figure out how we go forward.
Kurt Duxbury from the school board. His card is here, Blaine from ATS. Okay, there's been some questions from a board level whether or not ATS&R has provided us what we've expected, or paid for. And I think that was a topic. So I've gotten an email from Mr. Black on regards to your contract, the total amount that's been paid, including that with some square footage of buildings, and what we have on current heating systems. I can bring copies of that. I did not get the RFP.
The RFP.
What we were asking for.
I thought you wanted a contract for it. The signed document contract for
The district asked for an RFP, then we got contracts. And I did not get the RFP.
I was mistaken that. I can do that again.
Since then, I had a long talk with Ron Ridgman on the phone. He was leaving today for Florida. Won't be back till April 2nd. Very interested in helping any way he can. Kind of made a long rundown of how many units we got, kind of the ages and all that. And I think that's becoming more known to myself anyway, as to how old things are and kind of what kind of condition they're in. Talked with Dave Van Spankeren. He steered me to We Energies. We Energies steered me to Focus on Energy. I had calls into Charlie Schneider at CISA 10, who I met in Milwaukee, and also I bid on our stuff when you get TSNR, but also did bid on that RFP. We went to Focus. I called Focus. I talked to Bridget, and at Bridget I ended up talking to Nicole. Bridget works under Charlie. So Focus on Energy is being implemented through a contract of CISA 10, which is Charlie. And through Nicole, there's been an appointment tentatively made for March 6th at 9 to 9:30 in the morning from a Bill Pullman that does Focus on Energy audits, kind of an audit and or inventory of what we have, make some suggestions, what kind of rebates are available if we go forward, which rebates pay more or less based on the equipment that you get and how you jump through the right hoops, and that's for free.
Excuse me, what date was it?
It's currently March 6th. I did not confirm that. I wasn't sure I had the authority to confirm that. I think this committee can agree or disagree to confirm that.
What was your time?
He said 9 or 9:30 in the morning. Wait, look right now.
Okay, what's the gentleman's name?
Bill Paulman.
You have a number on there?
Phone number?
Yeah.
I've got a phone number for Nicole, which is probably the only one I have. It was Focus on Energy. It was an 800 number
Okay.
for Bridget, and then Bridget gives me a direct line, and Nicole has a direct line. Which one would you like?
The
I
one
think
you think
Nicole
the one
is as
closest
far
to the
as
fire.
far down the food chain as I can get at this point. 715
Mhm.
720
720
2142.
21. And Nicole's gonna answer the phone now?
I believe that's a direct line to Nicole, and she seems to know Bill's calendar. And tentatively, it was set up that Bill could make it, and I said, I'm leaving tomorrow morning, and I won't be back until Sunday night, I think.
You personally?
Yep,
Okay.
and I've got some teachers' appointments on Monday, and I've got DNR schooling all day Wednesday, so that was the calendar that fit for me and that fit for Bill, so that's where I started.
Just to tell you, it would work for me, Scott.
Okay, what?
You know, so compare notes. If this committee agrees to that, I'll confirm it.
Well, they have to.
So you guys tell me
Schedules out
how
first.
everybody
And
else.
he's just gonna go through what their programs are.
I think he walks through, I was told by Nicole that they will give us a 5-year schedule on our equipment.
Is that similar to what we had before, that you gave us, or what was that you gave us, that other?
No, that was from ESG. That was the
I
first
got
part
too
of
many
the
initials.
assessment of the mechanicals in our building.
The ironic thing is, this program is directed by Charlie, who's the same Charlie from CISA 10. I had a call into Charlie yesterday. I didn't get a call back until just before I got here. It sounded like he'd already talked with Mr. Black. And there's expectation that he is showing up, I think, Friday. And
March 6th.
No,
2
he
days
was
from
gonna
now.
stop by and just stop in and.
Charlie's going to CISA 6 in Oshkosh and happened to be stopping in. He said he hasn't looked at the equipment for 15 years. He
So
was
he's
just gonna-
meeting with Scott.
He's doing
That
it.
was the plan.
Sounds like I'd rather stop. He's gonna run through the equipment a little bit. And
He
then,
said nothing about that. He said he had some material to drop off.
maybe that's it. I certainly could have been confused. But he said, I haven't been in the district for 15 years. I'm stopping Friday. They operate on a package like ATS&R would have, at a price per square foot. So based on the square footage that I recently received, you know, his total package in a comparison to ATS&R would be in the 16,000 range. If he cuts it all the way back to the heating system, it's a negotiable item, the way it sounded. If we're just putting that narrow focus on it. Obviously, Charlie would like to, you know, give us a plan on everything, probably similar to what ATS&R has, whether we can get that understood or improved upon to get what the board expected is still up in the air. See where else I'm at. I did spend a little bit of time just on the internet. I found a very nice form on how to maintain school buildings. It happens to be extremely thorough. It's 184 pages long.
Just about. good stuff.
And
Good.
that's the website, and I didn't copy it because I'm too cheap on ink. That if people, I think this would be interested to you and yourself possibly, on how do you plan to maintain school buildings.
What's the website?
It's written on here, it's lengthy.
That you know what it was.
I've seen
Why don't we
that.
do
I've
this?
seen that
If
one.
I can get a copy of everybody that's at this committee's email, I can
Sure.
forward this as a link, or I can get Dawn to do
Dawn
it, because
can
I
do
don't know
it.
if I can. But I think this could be helpful for this current topic. It was the best one I found, and obviously there's lots of them, but the one that's written in English to me, you know, it didn't give you a lot of extraneous stuff. I thought it was very helpful in understandable words. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I guess I'm interested in what the rest of the committee wants to do, what AT&S and ARC can offer us. I think there's been discussions that, I think you've mentioned, Sandy, that we expected more on the curriculum side of things.
Yeah, and I guess that.
I certainly expected a clear 5-year plan on maintenance. Maybe it's in there, maybe I don't understand it. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, from the way we've gone round and round at the board meetings, is to take HVAC, because I think that's something everybody agrees on, and have this committee attack that first. What makes sense for 5-year maintenance plan? What can we do next year? And tie it into the air conditioning, everything, because out of all the items on there, that's one item I'm pretty sure there's,
Total agreement.
I know there's majority on and possibly consensus on, and just to get a start so we can take one step, because right now we haven't taken any. So if this committee could focus on HVAC first, once we come up with a plan for that, pick the next thing and then attack that, because if we try to do everything at once, we haven't done anything.
I agree.
Right, and my thoughts on the whole HVAC package was, I'd like to see a good, better, best financial option. The good is patch it when it breaks. That's the lowest thing we could do, patch it when it breaks. The next one is anticipate some retrofits, maybe cost effectively, maybe through focus on energy, things that, we can anticipate it's failing, plus there's some payback, kind of thing. And then, of course, good, better, best. The best, in my opinion, is we replace it all. You know, that type of range, I think, needs to be looked at economically, practically, whether it's current funds, new funds. Charlie talks about an Act 32, which has been recently passed at the state level, which allows you to go beyond your revenue limits for maintenance. It might not be my first choice, but it should certainly be in the
For the
consideration.
energy exemption, right?
Right, for the considerations.
Before
Yeah,
contracting
and-
down the.
And you're borrowing that money.
Yes.
Yes.
And, Charlie sees that sometimes as cost effectively because of focus on energies, rebates, I'll call it, for lack of a better term. But some of those are good investments. It saves you enough on energy with the rebates, like, why wouldn't anybody do this? You can justify the borrowed money and pay it back through savings and rebates. So those are some of the things that I found out. What direction does everybody want to go from here?
I guess my being the least knowledgeable about the workings of furnaces and so forth, I have to rely on other people. And your study seemed to be doubted by a lot of people.
Yeah.
They thought the fees were excessively high because this is what I heard.
Not
The
fees, but
replacement cost,
the
the
replacement
replacement cost of whatever the item was,
Mhm.
And I think one thing that Dean did share, that the pricing was 2 years out.
Okay.
So whatever that percentage
Yeah.
of inflation was
Yeah,
built into
there's
that.
inflation factors and things like that that get built into that price
Yeah.
that projects that, okay, at the current inflation rates, that it
Yep.
would project out to be such and such a cost.
Well, then another thing was, people wanted priorities, like, okay, we should fix the Fremont first, and it didn't seem to be spelled out.
Sure.
And then, and I went to almost every meeting, I think Scott did, and most of them. And, I certainly voted to have you come in, and I guess I wasn't sure the finished product was exactly what I was expecting, but maybe my expectations were high. I guess I expected to know, hey, if we put air conditioning in every building, what's it gonna cost us?
Right.
If we
And-
put, and I to admit right out, being the least knowledgeable about
Mhm.
these things. But I guess that's the answer. And maybe the answer is there and we just don't see it.
Yeah, as I was looking through what was on our network for the study that was done, I noticed that we had several options listed in here, like here was at the middle school, this was one of the options that was in here. So we had some deferred maintenance stuff, replace condensers for freezers, coolers, add tornado shelter, HVAC, replace existing boilers with new high-efficiency condensing boilers, some field improvements, and I don't know what the remodeling piece here was, but, you know, we had some various options here, and so this was like option one that they had spelled out in here. So then it goes into the elementary school. So when you get into some of these HVAC items and plumbing, your plumbing replace deteriorated wash fountains, replace boilers, replace gas-fired rooftop units, replace old portion of control system, add glycol to heating, HVAC. So this was like one option of the options that they were working on of you know, how to approach getting things accomplished, and then of course, you know, it breaks down to project costs and then you know, priorities of those pieces as well. So and that one's fairly lengthy, and then here's option one for the high school. That again, you know, there's some architectural items up here at the beginning. You know, if I'm going to talk about mechanical, you know, again, plumbing, deteriorated wash fountains again, domestic water heaters, replacing those, converting steam to hot water, oil storage systems, replacing some exhaust fans, doing some test and balance, replacing some floor drains, a gas valve underneath the kitchen hood, existing vertical unit ventilators. So I mean, it gets, you know,
Very detailed.
it gets very detailed down to little bits and pieces, and you know, the question I guess would come down to is how many different options you guys want to look at. I mean, it can be broken out in any way that we want to break it out into, and
I see, I'm the kind, you know, say my car's broke, I would go to the mechanic and say, how can I make that run again? So
Mhm.
if I say to you, I want these kids to have decent heating and decent air,
Yep.
you know,
Mhm.
and so.
Those are going to be your
when I
priority
did-
one items
Well,
right there.
that's,
Yeah.
I'm just
Mhm.
talking for me now, but I don't know where to exactly find that, because it's maybe too, I don't know. That's just.
It does get fairly in depth.
Yeah, I
and-
mean, you got a
and-
kitchen hood, now what does that have to do with, what I asked for was, I wanna know that the kid doesn't have to wear a coat in the winter, or,
That they
take
have-
off all their clothes in the summer.
that you have enough heat in the building, and that you
And
have enough
air,
ventilation.
Right,
Mhm.
and air, yeah. So I guess that was where I was coming from a little bit, and the curriculum, I guess I misunderstood, that was probably just my.
So is it feasible, I mean, because everything that you mentioned, Sandy and Neil,
Mhm.
is in there, just breaking it out, HVAC components, you know, and
Yeah.
bringing them out and just saying, all right, this is our focus, if that's the direction we want to look at, these are the HVAC items that could potentially be addressed. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've got it all here.
Right, just
And
a matter of cutting and
It's a
pasting.
matter of, yeah, I mean, we can take out those items of high priority, the ventilation items, the heating items, and things like that, that we want to list out as priority ones, and we can put those all together and say, well, here's all these priority one items. It's dealing with the boilers, it's dealing with rooftop units and ventilation, and break those out, and then we can start into a priority two items. Okay, priority two items, okay, like some of the floor drains, the kitchen hoods, gas valves, things like that, and break those out. And then I'd imagine then we're going to even get down to a priority 3, 4s, and 5s even down in that list.
See,
And
And sort of when you had the small groups then, I thought we were gonna take this and say, what are the priorities? Instead we, you know, and I went to every meeting, and, we went way beyond that, which in the future may happen, but right now we're so uncertain about our numbers,
mhm.
you know, with the economy and local economy and so forth, that,
Sure.
you know, I don't know that anybody's ready to go there, and so it sort of looked like you came back to us and said, well, I think you ought to do this, or that, and that was maybe beyond the scope of what we understood was going to happen, but it could be just me that didn't understand what that meant. I'll take the
Well,
blame.
I think, you know, we got the first all those materials, and then they allowed everybody to dream, including
Mhm.
us in the community. So we got the dream in, we have the reality, it's all in there.
Mhm.
We just gotta pluck out some pieces we can make reality.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's,
I
Yeah.
agree.
And I think we can easily help you with that, with, you know, if we wanna talk today about some of the items that are, you know, kinda high priority, we could easily, quickly pull those out of the spreadsheet, line item them, and send them back over to you. So that way you kinda have a budget of, okay, well, here's, to replace these boilers and some of these air handling units, here's a budget for that aspect of it. So then you have an immediate kind of budget to base that off of. And
Right.
You think that would come under my best scenario, good, better, best? That'd be the replacement?
Well, it depends on the system, you know, and like the boilers, it sounded like you guys were having numerous issues with boiler systems and that and the age of them. From a maintenance standpoint, that I believe you guys have, are they Burnhams, I believe, out here?
Yep.
Yep. The old blue boxes.
Yep.
Yeah. Those things usually only had about a 20-year lifespan to them.
We've got one in the high school right now that shot
Doesn't work.
doesn't work. One of
And
the
there-
6.
There's a boiler, I believe, in that grade school that's 56 years old and works.
By an old
That's
cast
been
iron.
good.
You know,
But
and
now
busy
it's probably
with
time
Ron,
to
you know, he
do
made it
some-
sound like, you know, a lot of things were changed in '91, and some of the records reflect that. I don't know that we have much for maintenance records on, you know, if one has been updated 50%, maybe that'd be the last one you would change, you know, because there's a lot of updates to it. He also talked, does Main Street have steam?
Yes.
Okay, talked about steam, and he always mentioned that in his 11 years that he was here, he always tried to stay under budget and tried to put away like at least $10,000 a year, which should have gathered over $80,000, he thought, for upgrades and replacements. I don't know if that's still available, or if it's got used elsewhere, or what's happened to it.
It's my understanding it's not.
And was, to put it mildly, disappointing, that Ron tried his best to stay under budget and anticipated that was his money for maintenance to be used for replacement. You stockpile,
Right,
you
yeah.
Band-Aid it, and then you've gotta do some changes, you gotta do some fixing, and if that's used elsewhere, the priorities are fine. That's my thoughts.
But I'm
What
not-
would you like?
What I like?
Yes.
I would like a system that works great, that keeps our students and staff comfortable.
Are you comfortable in fixing as failure? Do you wanna have planned updates,
Absolutely.
or do you want everything changed?
I think we all know that changing everything in all 4 schools probably isn't realistic, you know, right now.
Okay?
So,
You know, Ron's theory really was, you just put some in savings and you just fix as you go. Like you would in your house, he says. If your refrigerator breaks down, you change it. But you don't always just change it because it's 15 years old. It's working. You know, so to just change it when it's working isn't always cost effective in your household.
sure.
You know, so
But-
the idea that we'll save some in the sock and we'll be ready for fixing as we go. And then when it's, oh, this one's starting to cost too much to fix, our sock can replace it.
well, I think our district has been in general doing that. I mean, the fund balance keeps
Yeah,
growing.
balance
I mean,
is in there.
I think that's,
I-
maybe his stock is a drawer
But-
of every.
Because I don't think
but it's
you
in
save
there.
it
If
in
maintenance,
individual
is
accounts.
getting to be a
Saved
problem,
overall.
it needs to move up priority level. That's my theory.
But Neil, I agree, I don't think it would have been saved under janitorial department. It would be like a teacher can't say, well, I want to save every year, and then 5 years from now, I want to spend $1,000 for my classroom.
Actually, it should be, I believe,
You
in Fund
can't do
80.
that, right? I mean, it's got to go.
No, it can't be in Fund 80.
Which one is the
Fund
fund?
80 is community services.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I mixed up. Which is the one that'll fix the roof by saving? You kind of
Balance.
delegated
We
that.
just started that 3 years ago.
No,
Oh,
there's
you mean
another
Fund
one.
41?
I'm 41, I got it.
But that's gotta be on, you can't,
You have to make a purchase. And then-
I can transfer Fund 10 into Fund 41, but you're really levying into Fund 41, separate from Fund 10, which is what we've been doing. So when we levy the 100,000 into Fund 41 every year, it comes off of, that 100,000 comes off of what we can levy for Fund 10.
Can we add to Fund 41 from Fund 10?
From Fund 10? Yes.
That was what I understood
Yes,
from
we can.
Milwaukee school board stuff, is that,
But it's taking away from the regular budget.
correct. But
Yep.
it's a sock that is designated to keep Fund 10 looking artificially low, because you've got some off to the side for roofs, for example. And it helps so that you don't get over 20% of fund balance in Fund 10.
And if you remember, we've started
Well,
that
you-
3 years ago, 4 years ago, as a way to start planning for the future.
Right.
There's hundreds of thousands in there right now waiting
Yeah.
for that project to be identified. So
And
the
that's where
essence of where we're going, it has been set aside for that.
And that's where I hope we can get maintenance farther up the priority list.
I guess that was my point, you know, that you're not gonna save it under janitor's account, because the teacher.
There is no
can't
such
do that.
account.
No,
right?
no.
Schools have limited funds. and
Right.
I think 41.
Yeah.
41
Probably
is
the one I'm
is
thinking
one
of.
of them. There's a 41
So-
and there's a new 46.
So actually, the money was saved, it just wasn't said, this is Ron Erdman's savings, it was the school savings.
Well,
And-
I'm not sure Wes has access to it if he decides to,
Well-
if he has a budget line right now.
Mhm.
And it's difficult, you gotta stay within that or people start pointing fingers.
That's right.
You know, so if they said, wait a minute, no, Wes is accumulating some there, he's prepared to, you know, buy some updates and variable speed motors and a few things as he goes along, and he could increase his budget through other people, through the savings and maintenance, that budget money should be available for improvements and not have to go, hey, I need to go get to 41 to get some money to do this. It's like,
We have
Right.
several districts that we work with that, as they do energy savings measures and things, they take those dollars and they roll them right back into that budget for maintenance and repairs and replacement, which is
For the next year.
for the next year or years coming down the road. So every year as those energy savings are there, they just keep rolling that back into that fund, which then help, I mean, after 10 years or so, it almost becomes self-sustaining of being able to keep up with the
and,
maintenance.
you know,
and such.
maintenance, if it's spread too thin, you know, it's not impossible to have additional maintenance personnel. So that you can have management and workers and maintain it properly.
And I think the problem within the school district too, you have different administrators come in, you have different board members come in, and they see that pot sitting there and saying, well, why does Wes have that pot there? You know what I'm saying, so I think it gets looked at every year and by different eyes, which
Right.
is sad, but that's the way it is.
I think the buildings are equally important as staff. in order to
Absolutely, I
educate- in order to
agree.
educate
I'm
children.
just saying, I think this is what happens.
And
you know.
it doesn't make it a priority cut. So where do we go from here?
Like I said, I
Do we
think,
hire someone?
I mean, we pick HVAC, I mean, our board meetings have been embarrassing.
Yeah.
The way that it's gone. We pick HVAC this time, we come up with a 5-year plan, then we move on. What do we pick next? Windows possibly, we've heard that several times, roofs, bathrooms. And just pick off items one at a time. If they get in the way of a potential project, we consider that. Because doing a whole big picture, we failed miserably.
And then I think we go
The
back-
meetings have been embarrassing and too long.
I think we go back then to this, where you come with a summer maintenance project and say, oh, we're gonna do the bathroom, or we're gonna put in new toilets.
I mean, if we can
you
do a
know.
good job here with HVAC and take this to the board's full committee meeting or regular board meeting and prove that we've made steps and that we are gonna be doing something, then rather than saying, you know, leaving it wide open like we have, we can hopefully come up with what's the next priority. Then make a plan for that one so these guys can start chipping at it, because
And then-
we haven't opened the door to work on anything.
And then Wes, if you know, like Dan mentioned, come up like you, Scott, except for last year because you were waiting, summer, I know since you've been here, you've brought them forward, summer maintenance plan. What are you able to do? Or maybe you can do it by hiring somebody to come in and help you, or,
I mean, if we-
you know what I'm saying?
If they have it
I'm
in
not
there,
saying
you
you
know,
put in a
as
toilet.
an option, you guys pluck out there for us or design a 5-year plan for HVAC that we can take a look at.
Sure.
And I'm not even so sure I'm that concerned on you putting in dollar amounts. If we know what the priorities look like, maybe we can go look at numbers so we see them and hear them ourselves for the first time rather than being like, hey, they're nuts, that's way too much. We make a few phone calls and look up those numbers, might give everybody a comfort level of what we're looking at locally.
Yeah, and we, you know, when it comes to boilers, I could give you some numbers right offhand from a couple projects they just
Just
did
got
in the
done.
last 2 weeks here. I mean, their bids just came in on a district about 20 miles from here, Howard Schwamko district. Yeah, so those guys we were doing boiler replacements in 3 of their elementary schools over there. Each plant is about 3 million BTUs total, and for 2 of the schools were bid as a package, and that package came in at 217. They're about $217,000 for 2-3 million BTU plants.
Right, and I think the first HVAC number for the whole project was like 14 million or something
Yeah.
like that, wasn't it? And so it was just
Crazy.
like, whoa. So,
Yeah, so like for some of your boiler, for some of your boiler jobs, like I know it's like here you have four 200 MBH, so you're talking 800 MBH. That's a fairly small plant right there. I mean, that's easily under 100,000. Well, in fact, here it's roughly, well, project cost 262,000. I think this might be a little bit high. Listing quantity 3. I should look to see why that's listing as 3. Unless you had 3 800 MBH plants, this would be high. Otherwise, this would be pretty close to, for that size plant, this would be what you'd expect bids to come in at from a contractor right there. About 70,000 for, for example, for your middle school
So now we've
boiler
invested.
plant.
I think like 35,
I have it in
30
the
in my house if you could build more.
May I just, is it okay if I just ask a question? Now, we've invested quite a bit of, I mean, to us, it's a lot of money in your company already. What are we going to be charged for you doing this additional work? And do you actually write up what's the thing we write up for quotes?
The RFP.
Thank you. Do you actually write them up then, or, I'm just asking?
Well, considering what we've given you already, I have no issues with just at least taking this list and reordering it on the mechanical items
Yeah.
and sending that out to you. That way you guys would at least have, okay, here's boilers, rooftops, so on and so forth.
That's a replacement
So-
line item, aren't they? Okay.
Yeah, so basically I'd send you this with just mechanical items. And in a kind of an order of, okay,
Different buildings?
well, we can do different, I mean, I've already got them sorted by different
Okay.
buildings easily, and so then I can just take it and just, by building, I can list, okay, what, if boilers and ventilation is kind of on the high end, list those pieces, and then the next pieces, the next pieces, the next pieces, and list them down in that order and send that back to you. I mean, that to us, that's, I can have a guy work on that like an hour and a half. We're willing to do that for you
Okay,
guys and
sure.
send that to you.
Don't you think that's what they were looking for, the board?
It might make more sense to you
so
guys.
you guys
in
are
that
comfortable
format.
with what you saw of making that priority list? You're just flipping it around and
Yeah,
make it
and
more
we can
understandable for
take out all these architectural and all those other miscellaneous items out of here, bringing it to just mechanical. I mean, all I gotta do is turn those off in the spreadsheet, and then from there, take the mechanical, and, like here we had like 3 different priority lists here on the previous. Priority 1, immediate replacement, 2, near future replacement, 3, long range replacement. And just resort based on those, and, adjust maybe some of the priorities for, the boiler, like here, the boilers in here were listed as a priority 2, on this one. Maybe bump that up to a priority 1 and, reshuffle a few things and send it back to just mechanical, because like I said, we can easily do that very quickly.
Okay,
Will that
sounds
take
good.
into, will that take into effect, like, difficulty of the changeovers? Say, you guys aware of ductwork that's poor? Because, for example,
Yeah, there's
this is what I take away.
ductboard and things like
Yep.
that listed in here where
That's
there's
in there.
issues that we know of with ductwork and, because some of it's ductboard, and with ductboard, sometimes it gets overpressurized and the tape seams, they start coming apart over the years,
Because a
things
boiler,
like that. And
for example, can be expensive, but a switch out isn't all that difficult. Whereas like in elementary, where you got all those individual systems, that might be a priority over a boiler, because a boiler, if it goes down, we can replace it, stick a new one in. In elementary school, it might be a summer project to potentially correct
Exactly.
all those individual units. So that's,
one thing to consider is, when you're, and this kind of comes back to your focus on energy by state of Wisconsin on rebates and such, is that when you do boilers, with the new high efficiency boilers out there, your current boilers are like 85% efficient. They're non-condensing boilers. All your new boilers these days, you can still buy non-condensing boilers, but you're not gonna get the rebates for them. You'd wanna buy the condensing boilers in order to get the rebates, but then, if you're gonna plug in one condensing boiler into a system of existing non-condensing boilers, you're not gonna get the efficiency out of the unit.
Sure.
Because it's gonna have to run at the same water temperatures and which, the higher the water temperature you run on those systems, the lower the efficiency. So right now you're probably running 180, 170 degree, right around their
Mhm.
water system. Those guys like 140 degree water system.
And then more radiators.
And so then, so that affects rebates and things like that, and potential, money coming back to the district in the form of rebates and things too, so.
One thing on that, focus on energy, to get those rebates, we need a 10-year facilities plan mandated by the state. So that'll be one of the first things if we wanna go with that route, that's gonna be one of the first things we have to do is get a 10-year facility plan approved by the board.
I've personally been waiting for years for that.
And Blaine, how have you worked with Focus On with your group, the back and forth, you have your priorities in place. Do you personally work with Focus On Energy, or how does that aspect go now?
Yeah, when we were working with the Howard-Schwamico district up there with some of the projects that we've been doing up there, like especially the boiler replacements and things, we worked directly with them, and for one thing, we built a new district office, and that new district office up there, which is a whole new, brand new building in itself, we worked with Focus On Energy to work on packages as to what they call bundles, energy efficiency bundles. And so we worked directly with them to figure out, okay, what's the priorities for the district in this building for energy efficiency? So that kind of dictated windows, insulation, efficiency of the mechanical systems, things like that. So then they'd get a big check back for accomplishing all those pieces, which was great. The other aspects is once, when you're doing like the boiler replacements, those are a little more straightforward than, contractors just have to provide invoices and such once they're installed, and you submit the applications, Focus On Energy, and they send you a nice little check form.
So are you saying,
Go ahead, Al.
are you saying if we work with you, you could still get us those rebates, or whatever?
Yeah, as you go forward with projects and such,
We could get the rebates, even
You-
though we're
you would-
not working through CISA-10 or whatever,
Yes.
or whatever we're talking about.
CISA 10 runs it, it sounds like that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
All contractors are going to steer you toward Focus On Energy rebates.
Okay.
It's the nature of the world.
I
I'm going to
did-
pass this around one more
In
time.
our world, at like the farm, say high efficiency lights, the electrician fills that
Sure.
stuff out
Yeah.
for you,
Yeah,
because
The contractor helps you get your rebates.
and even local.
I'm going to pass this around one more time for
We
anybody
could
that
get
wants to
lights.
link to this thing.
Oh.
If you put your email down there, I'll
I'll make some
do my,
copies of that. I can make some copies of it.
or that, like I said, I didn't copy the 84 pages, 184 pages. I thought I'd link it to anybody that wanted it.
Well, I lost my folder and I did copy that at church, but I couldn't.
So I'm going to try to recap for myself. It sounds like ATS&R is going to give us replacement costs on our HVAC side.
Yeah, we're gonna update these options with,
Find yours.
for just mechanical systems and
You're probably not interested, but anybody else that,
and send that back over to you. We'll probably shoot for about middle of next
Can't you
week
just-
to have that back over to you.
that'll be in a prioritized list too.
Yeah.
and does the committee agree that Bill Paulman from Focus On Energy comes on March 6th, 9:30?
Okay, and what would the purpose of his thing,
I've been led to believe that they'll come through and look at the equipment and give you a 5-year plan and give you suggestions on where your best bang for your buck is from the rebate side of things.
Okay, so that,
You're probably agreeing with me
they're
more
good
than
at that.
I mean,
Would
you
you-
understand this better than I do.
Yeah, they're very
would
good
you
at that.
agree that would be a good thing to do then?
Absolutely.
It's free.
Along with you?
Yeah, especially since it's free.
It's free, or it's included in our cost
Anything
of
free is
utilities.
good, right?
And that 5-year facility plan, from what I've been told, by some different consultants, is that 5-year plan becomes your 10-year plan because you stretch that last project out to the 10th year, and now your 10-year plan's done.
Yeah, because you can't really
So
count.
you don't have to worry about coming up with a 10-year plan as a board then, he's just done it for you.
The only thing copied was what you need.
So, what you're saying is there's gonna be no further cost for you to give us this information I requested today.
Yeah, just to give you this, yeah, we're not gonna send
And
you
if
any
somebody
additional quotes.
knowledgeable about things would come and say, you know, I really think we need to fix our heat and our cooling in each building, you would answer how much it would cost. I know that to the county.
Yeah, it's an estimate cost, and,
Okay.
you know,
And
things are always variable, but depending on bidding climates, number of contractors bidding,
I
things like that,
understand.
and.
But this would also include not just a new boiler, but what we would have to fix broken pipes leading up to that boiler. That's also included in that? That's what you were asking.
Yes, we have in there portions like, we know of ductwork that's breaking down, that needs
And you would
resealing, things
include
like
that
that.
in
And
what you're telling
yeah,
us.
those pieces are included in here right now, and they'll be included when I resend it.
That's what I meant, you're not gonna, that was sort of.
Yeah, we're gonna leave that stuff in, so that way it's in there. You know, those things might be in, well, if it's a boiler thing and there's pipes that are leaking and such, well, we'll probably bundle that, push that up with the boiler replacement so that those things, you'd wanna get those things done at the same
Right.
time.
No, I'm
That would
gonna
make sense.
throw something else totally off. Okay, if we do all this, and we have it really nice, and we wanna change the configuration of some classrooms, probably should work. Say we wanna take down this wall and put it, I'm just saying.
Well, then it comes down to, well, how are your mechanical systems?
Then we would have
so-
to check and see
so-
how.
And that stuff isn't, you know, I think there was some other miscellaneous remodeling things
Yeah.
involved in here you've probably seen HVAC from an architectural, but they include some mechanical costs in with those pieces in there.
I disagree with Kurt, I think our meetings, this would be good, and this
One thing
seems
at
to
a
be
time,
really
because we can't
fantastic.
handle
Right.
a whole bunch, it's just everybody gets.
The other consideration I've had was, take 2, 3, 4 major contractors, August Winters, B.G. Meyer and Collins, some other people, and ask if they would provide a free estimate of updating or replacement. Some may or some not. I didn't get a chance to make those calls. Is that warranted?
Wouldn't they use this information then?
Those are
We
calls
should
I want
probably
to
wait till
make.
we
I
have
didn't
this
get time to.
information, we should wait till we get this, and then
So,
we at least got
yeah.
something.
So let's
to
do
go
this
on.
one, the focus one. Charlie's showing up, see where we go from there, and by the meeting of March
6th,
6th, see
after that meeting, we could.
which more we want to do or less, or where we go from there.
I think that's a good idea.
Works for me.
So our committee meeting is on,
Ninth?
the 9th, yeah. So we plan on meeting as a group on the 6th then?
Well,
Do we want a regular meeting?
I don't know that the group needs to meet. Focus Energy's coming here. I plan to be here, and I guess whoever would like to. Whether
We
it's
should
a
probably
committee
call that
meeting
a
or
committee
one or
meeting.
two people.
I would post that as a committee meeting.
On the
That-
6th,
that's-
same as today?
Yeah.
Makes no difference to me.
And
All depends upon who shows up.
also, do we want the possibility of having a regular meeting after that to make a decision on something, or not? Remember?
We got a board committee meeting at 9, on the 9th.
On the ninth.
Agenda will be
No.
out prior to that?
No, but we can't do any actions on the committee.
We could have HVAC update on the 9th.
Give an update of what this meeting has produced?
But do we need any decision made that night? Because remember, we talked about at the last meeting, then we would post a regular meeting to
Yeah.
follow the, I don't know that we're
I
at
may
that
think
point
that, you
yet.
know, at the March board meeting, after, if we have 2 committee meetings here and then our committee of the whole, if we're on the same page for something to be acted on,
The
the March
23rd.
board meeting may be appropriate, you know.
We
If
could
that's-
have it on the agenda on the 9th, and there might be an action item for one thing to get started on the 23rd. That'd be a
Okay.
victory from where we've been.
Yes, it
We'll
would.
have to special, post a special meeting.
My opinion is, if this committee, in which Mr. Black is involved with, steers in a certain direction, Black has a certain amount of freedom to $5,000 to do what he wants.
Oh,
Right, with projects and
You
what.
know,
Oh, yeah, that's
So
right.
it isn't necessary that we need board action to make something happen
Okay.
on the 9th.
And are we asking?
Am I out of turn there, or is that?
No,
legit?
that's correct. I mean,
Yeah,
if there's
5,000.
You know,
something that
if-
needs to
if he-
be done
if he-
right
if
now,
he
we can do
is-
that.
Is
Pull the
enlightened
pipe
to
out?
the groups want to go this direction, it could happen.
Yeah.
And that would give us time to, Blaine, to review this, and I know we'll have questions.
Yeah.
You know, and what you turn back to us then.
Sure,
With
yeah.
that and.
Yeah, and if you
how
have
that part-
questions, you know, feel free to call and.
Yeah.
And are we also asking Scott and Wes to come up with a plan for this summer for maintenance?
We've already started. already started.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it's
Scott.
not part of it.
No, but that was mentioned,
Yeah.
That's
so
understood.
I don't wanna leave you hanging and all that.
Anything else
That's
to
all right.
add? Sandy?
No, I feel real good about the meeting.
Wes?
And I thank Scott and Wes for coming.
Bud?
Yep. No, not at
And the
this time.
business manager for
Yourself?
coming.
Anybody else? No?
Drew, just, do we wanna, should we, since we have, and we'll have Blaine here again. and
Right,
soon.
could pick his brain if there's
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
All right.
If there's something you
Can-
wanna talk
can
about,
you-
let's
well, this-
talk about it.
Can you give us all a perspective of a district perhaps that did this process? All right, had upgraded HVAC, we'll use that as an example, and
Sure.
how you're involved in the process and from start to finish with the different elements that are needed to turn on the switch and
Absolutely.
everything works.
I brought an example with me. This is the North Branch. They're near the Minnesota-Wisconsin border,
Okay?
on the Minnesota side. Yeah, and these guys are a few steps ahead of you guys right now.
Mhm.
They're at the point now where they're deciding which projects to go forward with for this summer. So, yeah, feel free to take a look at that. So, with that, we went out there, we did a facility study, similar to this, where we prioritized items. We sat down with them over last summer. We sat down with them 3-4 different times, going through the priorities of, okay, what's their priorities for mechanical. Mechanical systems was the larger driver and everything for them. They still had items like fields that they wanted to do. They wanted to do some work at their football field and press boxes and stuff like that out there. They wanted to do some work in their media centers in their 3 or 4 different schools. Some other miscellaneous things like that, and there's some other future additions that they're looking at as well. But their biggest driver was mechanical systems and energy. They had some buildings that were real energy hogs and maintenance nightmares.
Sure.
So we actually went out there and we did we sent our commissioning agents that we have out there to investigate, figure out what's going on, why are they sucking up so much energy. They put data loggers out there and logged, they really wanted to figure out what's going on with their systems. So we data logged like all of their mechanical systems to figure out what's going on. And found out that they had all these leaky dampers, they had systems that weren't operating correctly, controls that were out of control. A lot of pneumatic controls, similar to what you guys have out here, a lot of pneumatics.
Right.
So they knew that they needed to upgrade those things in order to help rein in their energy
Right.
usage on things. And they again, like you guys had boilers that needed to be replaced, things like that. And so we're now stepping forward with them right now, meeting with those guys the next couple of weeks here to figure out which projects we want to try to tackle this summer.
Okay.
And so, like I said, they're just a little bit ahead of you guys right now on that, but that's what we're doing, and like I said, we went through this process with them and prioritizing, and it took, like I say, several meetings, 3-4 meetings that we had with them to prioritize. Okay, what's higher priority? What's the funding sources of it? Because that was the other thing for them. They had to figure out, well, how are they going to fund these projects? In Minnesota, they have health and safety funding and alt facilities funding, and they have different funding sources for different things in Minnesota. Besides being able to just levy to taxpayers, or worst case, you go out for bond, ask for bond referendum in order to
Right.
fund the project. So it took a lot of meetings to figure out, well, what falls under each basket of funding, and now that we have those things figured out, well, now now we're getting to the point where we'll have an upcoming meeting to say, okay, well, these are the things that we're going to go with this summer, and these are the funding sources that we're going to utilize based on how we prioritize it with them, and figured out what funding sources that they actually fall into.
Sure.
And so, that's probably something that you guys need to figure out too, is, okay, well, what funding sources are we going to use? And being that you're going to have focus on energy out here, which is great, hopefully they'll be able to give you they should be able to give you an idea of incentives and rebates that they'll be able to provide you based on the project that you're going to do. So then you know that at least, okay, at the end of that project, we'd get a check back for $50,000, $75,000, or
All
whatever.
part of their decision making.
Exactly. And so, like I say, I think that's another aspect that you guys need to look at here as you keep going forward, is figure out, well, how are we going to pay for the project? Okay, if this project is going to cost us in this ballpark, whether it's replacing boilers, or we're gonna replace the rooftop units on this school, or whatever it happens to be. And okay, we see that that's gonna cost us in the ballpark of $200,000 or whatever. And then that's when, you know, you need to prioritize, okay, am I gonna use Fund 10, am I going to Fund 41, am I gonna, you know, what kind of rebates does that have coming back at it to offset costs, things like that. And
When you give us this cost analysis, could you include what services you will provide to help us through it and what the cost of that would be too?
yeah, I can give you guys a range of, because, you know, as you go forward with wanting to break out specific projects, you know, different projects would have different costs associated with them, and how you break them up, and how.
Yeah, I think that's one of our questions. Is this document that was produced for us, is that North Branch's document right here, that same thing?
It's pretty well the
Okay.
same thing.
This isn't another purchase than this. They did a facility study, that's their facility.
This was their facility.
We have one to
study
cover this
then.
as Weyauwega Fremont, just like this.
I know, but now when they
Yes.
focus now you
Yeah.
drained your focus to HVAC, do you start this process all over again?
Well,
To
yeah, once we
hone
got
in
to
on-
this point with North Branch, to where okay, here's your facility study.
Yep.
That's when, after that point, we had to start drilling into
Yep.
it to figure out, well, what can we afford to do
Within that.
within that, and so it took several meetings after that to figure those pieces out. And so,
And did you lead that, or
well,
how did
our
that go
our
down?
architect on this case was Dan Mall, but Dan Mall and myself, the two of us, had many meetings with, I said 3-4 meetings with the district to figure out those pieces, and now we're right there, we're just about ready to pull the trigger with them to say, okay, here's the first project, this is what we're gonna do.
And to
now.
answer Sandy's question, what was the cost from here to where you are now?
I have to ask the architects to see what they put in the fee. They don't always share the fees with the engineers.
That's fine. That's fine.
But it's usually we work off of a fixed fee, you know, for up to this point, and then from this point up to an actual project, we may have another smaller fixed fee, you know, for those meetings and updates to this and things like that. You know, we're spending hours and stuff like that, but we can usually estimate, okay, well, we have so much travel time, we have so much hours of working on this and meetings and so on and so forth, that we come up with a fixed fee for bringing them up to that
And a
next
percentage
step.
of the project?
And then when it actually kicks into a project, a lot of times we roll, depends on the district, and like if they're going after bond referendum, usually we'll take these costs and roll them as in part of the fix or the percentage fee that we have of the overall project, but that's usually on a big project.
Yeah.
On small stuff, then, you know, it'll be a percent of whatever the construction cost is.
Is that the industry norm? You think?
It's pretty close to the industry norm. When we're doing really small projects, sometimes those, a percentage is,
Too low.
it's too, well, it could be too low, or if it's a high cost item, but there's not a lot of it there,
Could be,
it could
yeah.
be too high. So then at that point, we'll look at it and say, well, we'll do it for a fixed fee of X amount of dollars too. So we just gotta make sure that we find that balance, that, you know, we don't wanna be overcharging, but we don't wanna be undercharging. So it's always that balance to find
Right.
based on what the project actually is.
So your experience and your discussions, how many districts take on this type of process independently by themselves? Or do you see the majority seeking the input from vendors like yourself or Focus or whatnot?
Yeah,
You know,
it's rarely do I see a district trying to take it on themselves. I mean, we've been working with some districts for 40, 50 years, and they don't even, and they're big districts, and they don't even bother to attempt it because it's just, you know,
The regulations alone.
they don't have the expertise to know, okay, well, how long does that mechanical system have really in its life expectancy?
Right.
You know, ASHRAE, which is one of the leading mechanical standards out there, kind of has a catalog of, you know, life expectancies for different pieces of equipment, and you know, everyone uses that kind of as a gauge. You know, obviously, some of those old cast iron steam boilers, those things can last forever if they're maintained well. Actually, we're working with the district right now in Minneapolis, where they have a couple school buildings that have some old steam boilers that are working 75 years old, and 75-year-old steam boiler in them, and they're like, yeah, we want to keep these things.
Hey, as long as they're
They're
working.
indestructible, you know, and it's that's the key. Is a key comes to it as maintenance. If you maintain
Right.
those old steam boilers, they'll last a long time.
Right.
So, one more round?
One more round.
By the meeting next Friday, since we're gonna meet again, could you put together your worst headache list of HVAC only, nothing else, but
HVAC only.
HVAC
Oh.
only,
The personal opinion of close to failure.
your biggest headache?
We're not talking just, just Weyauwega Elementary and High School, we're talking district.
Five companies.
District-wide.
You have 5 buildings.
Sure.
Your biggest headache, and then also maybe in that is prioritize what you feel would be the biggest, longest lasting project that may need to be decided on before summer.
6 if you count the bus garage.
You know what I'm saying?
4,
Just
5,
what-
6.
Not even dollar amount, which one is the biggest headache and would be the most difficult to change
your priority.
in your opinion? So
I
that we
think
give ourselves enough
that
time to
list that you already
fix it.
created had some of them on there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I just care about the money.
I-
Bottom line is all I care about. I don't care about anything else.
Anything else?
I'm with
I just
Drew
wanna
on
know
that,
what the
and
money
I think
is.
that perspective is valued, and I think we should all hear that as we move forward. All right, there's others, people here we have our insight and expertise, and we're good at it, but we're not, there's others that can help as well to make us better than what we are.
Can I come back for one more question?
Yeah.
For example, this year, we were 170,000 under on our health insurance to date, is that?
Thus far.
180.
Yeah.
What can that money be used for legally?
Anything.
Including lowering
It's not
premiums.
committed, it's not committed to anything right now, so.
Right now. That'll be
Including
one of-
lowering premiums.
Well, we're looking at lowering premiums as part of the health package going forward next year anyway, to reduce the fund balance in
Right. I
the
mean,
committed
next year, the
balance
goal would
within
be to
this-
not build
within
that
the-
up again, but it's there and it's real right now.
Yep.
The majority of the money that got put in there was put in there by taxpayers, not by employees.
86%.
That's right.
Or 95, depending on where.
It's not like it's savings from employees, it's overfunded premiums.
Right.
So, okay, this might be a tough question to answer, but realistically, you know, we got a lot of options on the table here, but we decide to go forward with something on a relatively major scale. What's the potential that we're gonna be able to really get into this thing and have it done before, say, September 1st?
Well, I'll give you an example of that. Right now, we're working with a district, Long Prairie, Minnesota, where we're doing, and their entire, it used to be their high school, but now it's their elementary/middle school. We're converting their existing boilers, which were 2001 vintage, so they're not that old, they're steam, converting them to hot water, replacing, putting in a whole new pumping system, removing all the existing steam piping, replacing about half of their air handling units throughout the building, whole new control system, and then the units that are staying that were put in the 90s, we're swapping out steam coils for hot water coils, adding air conditioning to the entire building. That project starts April 1st and will be done by October 1st. It's a big project with a short schedule.
Mm-hmm.
We're basically giving them from the time they shut the boilers down, which they're projecting to be about April 1st, to the
Well,
time
you
they need
turn
to
them
start
on.
them on,
You bet.
and turn them on again. So that's the contractor's window to get all those mechanical, and they have to have all the ventilation aspects of it done from the time school lets out to the time school starts. So they have to have all the ventilation aspects, all the
Sure.
air handling unit replacements and coil swap outs. Those all have to be done by the time school starts. But
We don't know children.
yeah, when there's no children, exactly. So they have a very tight window for a big project like that,
Mhm.
which then, it comes down to what kind of contractor's working on. You need a good sized contracting firm to handle a project like that has a crew that can handle a project like that. Some of these really small shops, they don't have crews that can handle a project like that. So when we put out a project like that, we'll usually call contractors that we know in the area that we know could handle a project like that to
Sure.
clue them into, hey, we want you to bid on this project because we know you can handle it and you're a decent contractor, we try to get those guys on those
Mhm.
projects.
I just wondered, is our travel time, are we costing a lot more money because you're so far away?
There is,
Like spending
I mean,
on-
well, there's,
Because when he first gave the presentation, I thought he said something about, well, he's from so-and-so and it wouldn't be so far or something.
Well, he's from Minnesota, South,
I don't know, but
not South St. Paul,
You know,
but
but
on that area. You know,
Sure, yeah,
right,
I mean,
whatnot.
it's-
I guess
Yeah.
I just have to.
You guys are
know,
working in this area, like you maybe.
Yeah,
say,
like
how
Howard-
often
Howard
are you in
Schwamico
this area?
district right
You know,
now,
to
I mean-
streamline processes,
Because you
I
said,
guess.
you said travel time, and I thought, oh, maybe we shouldn't have picked somebody so far away, and I know why I did, because of the curriculum aspect, which I misunderstood, but.
yeah, and with- like I say, with having other projects in the area, we take that into consideration too, that we can fit trips in that, okay,
Okay.
well, we're going to Howard Schwamico District anyway, already, you know, if we can incorporate a trip to here and there all in one trip, then we try to do those things to get savings for you guys.
I just wanted to say, I'm very impressed, because my object was to find out what was going on, something I could understand, so I could explain it to my husband when I go home tonight, and I think I can do it. So, thank you for your
Wonderful.
presentation.
Move to adjourn.